Hello and welcome to Behind the Lines. I'm Diane Dayton. Today we're going to talk to one of the top female boxers in the world. She happens to be a Lancaster native and she is a true fighter in so many different ways. Leah Mellinger, it is great to have you here.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Hey, and congratulations. You were just inducted into the International Women's Boxing Hall of Fame. This was in Las Vegas in October.
Yes, it was. It was very, very exciting.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So let's talk about your background.
Okay.
So you went to Penn Manor High School. So you are a Lancaster native. How did you get into boxing?
Well, the whole story, the long story is I was interested in martial arts because at a very young age, right out of high school, I got a job with Pinnacle Mortgage, and
Yes.
we used to travel around the country doing real estate auctions. We did the mortgage part. So I basically was living out of hotel rooms for weeks at a time. And I remember being in a hotel room and I wanted to go down to the vending machine and get ice. And I was like, oh, should I, shouldn't I? Because it was late. And I really started thinking, I need some self-defense. Like, I need to learn to protect myself. I'm a single woman. I'm alone in, strange cities a lot. So I didn't realize that when I was back in Lancaster, when I had some free time, the school that I went to was a full contact martial arts school, which I didn't realize was unusual. It was. You had to learn to kickbox, and it was full contact.
Okay.
So I just, as part of getting my black belt, learned to kickbox. Okay. And at the beginning, I was really bad. Like, nobody quite appreciates how horrible I was in the beginning. I was not a natural fighter. I was a natural athlete, but I was not, I was not somebody who was, picking fights and backyard tumbling around with my brother. It was not part of my world.
How
we
old
didn't
were you?
watch boxing. I was 20 when I first, 20, maybe just turned 21. So when I got started, as I said, it was really, really bad. But I came back. Every day I came back. And finally the black belts, the people who ran it, came to me and they said, we don't want you to quit because you're so bad. But, but I was good at the karate. I was good at the more traditional part.
Okay.
But they were like, we don't want you to quit, but, maybe we should redirect this. And I got really offended that anyone would think I would quit, because I'm not a quitter. And I just decided to just listen. And just whatever the coaches told me to do, I would do. And I became a robot. And it clicked. Like, all of a sudden, it was like, oh. So I stopped trying to do it my way, which was failing miserably, and I relied on experts to tell me what to do. So I learned how to learn this thing, and once I just did what they said it to do, then I started to understand why I was, the methods and why you do things and everything like that. It's kind of like learning any skill.
Okay.
You don't become an expert internally.
Right.
You have to seek others. So, and when it clicked, it really clicked, and it tapped into my athletic ability and, the inner strength that I had. And I basically had beat kind of everybody locally in kickboxing. And this is just when USA Boxing started putting females. In '93, Dallas, I believe her name is Dallas McCoy, sued Golden Gloves so that women could be in the amateur boxing. So they actually came to me and said, hey, we've got women signing up. We need more competitors. Do you want to do this? And I was like, oh, okay, sure. I'll keep my feet on the ground. And then I did that. And then that sport started getting more popular. And there was a lot more opportunities. So I switched over to just traditional boxing. And I did that for a fairly short time before turning pro. In that, definitely a shorter time than you would now.
Okay.
Just because there were so few women. And then the catalyst that really launched it was there was a female card on the undercard of a Mike Tyson fight. And it was Christy Martin and Deidre Gogarty, who were the first females that were televised nationally, I believe. Definitely within, that time frame. And I remember I was in Florida with my dad, and I thought, this has to be a good fight, because if this is not a good fight, we're all doomed. Like, nobody's gonna ever want to see it again. This is our one shot. And it was a great fight. It was the best fight on the card. It put the rest of the fights to shame. And that was it. Every fighter, every big name fighter wanted to have one female on their undercard. So I was very fortunate to be in the position where I was trained. I was already pro, and the sport just took off. So, so things really, really got moving from there.
Yeah, it really clicked, didn't it? So you have won 3.
Yes.
Wow. Tell us what they are.
Oh, let's see. This is. I think this is the first one. This is the IFBA, International Female Boxing Association. This is the IWBA, International Women's Boxing Association, and this is the PBI, with Professional Boxing Incorporated. These two, I believe, aren't currently ranking fighters. This one is still in operation, and I believe some of the more established organizations since my time have split and have just started doing a men's division and a women's division. Whereas when I was doing this, it was brand new, and they said, because we really had to prove ourselves, and they weren't sure if we were a fad, if this was going to stay, so we sort of all had to do from the ground up at the time.
These are heavy, too.
They are surprisingly heavy.
I remember one story you told me way back when you and I talked, how you were going to one of the boxing matches, and they thought you were the card girl.
Yes. I showed up at a venue, and I had my, press badge, to get backstage, and the big bouncer guy says, "Oh, yeah," he said, "all the girls are up in dressing room 3. And I was the only female on the card, and I'm like, what do you mean all the girls? And he's like, all the card girls are up in... I'm like, oh, no, sweetheart. And I grabbed the poster, and I was like, I'm the main event. I was like, I know what to do inside a boxing ring, and it has absolutely nothing to do with high heels.
Yeah, right. I love it. What is it about boxing? I mean, I know you and I have talked, and we'll get into some of this too, some of the life lessons with it, but what is it about boxing, Leah?
Well, boxing is full contact chess. So anybody who likes strategy games, that offense, defense, I need to plan what I'm doing. I need to pay attention to what you're doing. So it's all of the elements of the strategy with the very, very intense physical, daunting task that's being put on you. Yeah. So it's like this marriage of brains and brawn, I think. Okay. And at least the way I fight, I was what's called a counterpuncher. So like I like to see what mistakes that you're going to make and capitalize on them. So I mean, part of it is just with most sports, it's just putting yourself on the line. Doing your absolute best in that moment. Everything coming towards that one goal, and the ability to win is truly one of the most addicting things in the world.
So, that explains a lot too, right? Yes. So, obviously, there's a lot of punching going on. Have you ever really gotten hurt?
Yeah, I mean, I've had concussions. I've never been 100% knocked out. I've almost been knocked out. I've broken several bones in, my hands, my wrists. I've torn my shoulders. I mean, I've suffered a lot of injuries through training for a fight just as much as being in the fight itself. But my career was shorter than I would say like the average male's fighter who's going to start at a young age and is going to do this through adulthood. Right. The amount of fights that I had is much smaller. Comparatively. Yeah.
Well, this is what you got. Just back in October of 2023, International Women's Boxing Hall of Fame. This was in Las Vegas. You took both of your children along. They're teenagers now.
I did. It was very, very special having them there. And my children grew up seeing these belts hang on the wall and people saying, "Oh yeah, I know your mom. Your mom's a boxer." And it's just ubiquitous, who's your mom? My mom's the boxer. And so when we went here, it was really interesting for them to see the historical perspective because there was my group, we kind of call it like our sorority of women who were at that time when it changed boxing. But there were also the women, they honored a few women that were there way before our time, the women who were considered underground, that were completely unsanctioned fights that they had in gyms, and they were kind of pro because they sold tickets and they did get money, but there was no a commission or anything like that, like it was for us. So they got to see that first generation of women, and then my generation, and to see how it really changed female sports. And you know, one of the things that I thanked all of the women who were in my generation before, that they got to change, that my daughter doesn't have to pick from the short list of sports. Because one of the reasons I think that boxing spoke to me was that I was not allowed to be a pole vaulter. So when I was in high school at Penn Manor, I wanted to be a pole vaulter. And they told me, no, there is no girls pole vaulting. And I was like, well, let me try. And they said, okay. They said, well, women don't have the upper body strength. You cannot, women do not possess the upper body strength to do that, which is amazing, because you think of this, I graduated in 90, so this, and you think about the 80s, like the Mary Lou Rettons and the, you know, clearly it takes a lot of upper body strength to be a gymnast. But it was just this persona that girls can't do this. And so I tried, and I wasn't the best out of all the guys, but I wasn't the worst. I was kind of in the middle. And then my coach said, well, I know you're looking to go to college and you're looking for a varsity letter, and you're not going to get one because even if you compete, it won't count. And I did run into him later, and he admitted that was probably the worst piece of advice he'd ever given a student.
Wow. Well, things have certainly changed since then, and we're going to talk about fighting and something else that you've been fighting, but you're coming out on the other side with that. Stay with us.
You're watching Lancaster Community TV. LCTV 66.
Welcome back to Behind the Lines, and we are talking to Leah Mellinger, one of the top female boxers in the world. We've talked about the championships and being inducted into the International Women's Boxing Hall of Fame. You also are a personal trainer, which you've been doing that for a long time.
Yes, I have. I've probably been training people for over 25 years now.
Okay.
So when I was still being trained and I was still fighting, I started training other people, because a lot of people like a boxing workout. They like being able to hit something. They like the cardio, the conditioning. Generally, we lose people when they start sparring. People don't want to get hit in the face. Draw the line right there. So basically, I've developed a way to take the boxing and get the health benefits out of it, and the mental health.
Yes.
Because it's really cathartic. To get out those frustrations, with in a really safe manner, and as well as getting fit.
Absolutely. You also have been in a fight with breast cancer.
Yes, I have.
Tell us about that.
Last August, I was diagnosed with invasive breast cancer, and I'm very fortunate that they caught it early enough that through lumpectomy and radiation, I'm in this test pattern, holding pattern, just kind of waiting to see if it's going to come back. But the chances are good that it won't. But yes, that's definitely a different kind of fight.
Yeah. And I know you've been through a lot over the past few years, and there are a lot of life lessons that you're learning and coming out on this other side. Share some of those with us.
Well, the thing that I can draw from personal strength is boxing. I mean, I know deep down and like the deepest level that I have an inner strength and a perseverance and absolute inability to give up that has helped me in other things in my life. And fighting breast cancer was one of those, was that knowing that this sucks.
Yeah.
Like losing a fight sucks. Yeah. But the world doesn't stop spinning. It's not over. You lost a round, you didn't lose the fight. And those type of things, being able to, rely on yourself and know that you have that strength and you have that perseverance is something that I don't know I would know about myself if I hadn't been so challenged with boxing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you also go around and give motivational talks now, which totally makes sense. Tell us about that.
Well, I have two different speeches. One is for anybody. It's, business or pre-college, but I call it 10 rounds to bringing out the champion in you. Okay. Because I really do believe that everyone has that inner champion. They have that self-worth and fight. I learned about mine through boxing, But my goal is through fitness and through speaking and travel is to help people find it in themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I also do one for little kids, and it's the difference between a wish and a goal. Because to a small child, a wish, I wish I get an A on this test, or my goal is to have an A on this test. It's the same outcome, but how you get there and which one's actually going to come true depends on you. Yeah. And what you can do to make that goal happen.
How can we get a hold of you and find out if we want to maybe have you as our personal trainer or have you give a talk?
Right now, probably the best way is Instagram or Facebook.
Okay.
Just
look you
up. Just Google me.
Yeah, you're on there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're on there. So let's go back to some of the fights and in the early days. Wow. Did you ever feel intimidated?
Oh my gosh, yes. Oh my gosh, yes. Matter of fact, I got to see one of the women who absolutely terrified me at the Boxing Hall of Fame. And of course we, big hugs and we're so happy to see each other. But when I fought her, she was the Texas powerlifting champion. She was the alternate on the Olympic women's powerlifting team. She had knocked out every opponent she had ever fought in the first round.
Oh my gosh.
And she probably outweighed me by a good 15 pounds. And I realized that my sort of more intelligent way of going about boxing was what was going to help me, is that everyone else stood in the middle of the ring with her and brawled it out. And I was not going to do that. So my strategy was to hit and move and make her come after me. And it worked out very well. I did win the fight. But just... she was a very intimidating fighter, as was Frida the Cheetah Gibbs, who I fought this one for. I actually got my eye split, my eye bone split in that fight. And I realized I was going to the hospital and I was getting stitches. And I decided I'd really rather go with the big gaudy belt than without it. So dug down deeper and put the pain and the fear aside and did what I had to do.
Whoa. These are really what we talk about when we talk about life lessons and how it applies to other things in life. Digging deep, working through the pain, using different strategies, all of those things.
It really is. And another thing that I learned was visualization. Really, before each fight, I visualized everything from walking into the ring to being announced to how each round was going to go. I mean, I really, really visualized it. And I always tell people, if you cannot see yourself achieving that goal genuinely, then you're not ready, or this isn't your goal for you. You have to really believe in yourself.
That really gets into the psychology of winning, doesn't it?
It really does. It really does. In my mind, I had already won. I just got to go show off.
Right. Just go do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, just go do it. Wow. And how did you learn that?
Oh, that is an interesting question. I think trial and error.
Okay.
I know, because I didn't win. I didn't walk through every fight that I had, and I didn't win every fight that I had. And when I did lose a fight, I could look at it and say, what did I do? What could I have done more? Which is the worst feeling in the world. Yeah. When I should have done my road work. Because I never liked to run. So. It's like when I skipped those runs, when I cheated on the diet, or if I, skipped a gym day, and then to lose that fight afterwards, that's a really nasty piece of humble pie to eat. Yeah. It's one thing to lose a fight, you did your absolute best, and that person was just on that moment, on that day, better than you. You can hold your head pretty high with a loss like that. But when you didn't do everything, that's a lesson you have to learn and not repeat that mistake.
Yeah, it is lessons learned. It's ongoing lessons. You're also a part of the Lancaster County Hall of Fame, too.
I am.
Yes, which was great as well. The coaches that you might have had, trainers that you might have had, tell me about that.
I actually had a lot of different coaches over the years. Like I said, I started in kickboxing, so I started with more of a martial arts background and kickboxing background. And then as I went to more traditional, boxing, then I worked with more traditional boxing coaches.
Sure.
And the thing that is interesting is learning how to learn, because I definitely got to a point in my career where I was a little difficult to coach, because I felt like I almost knew more than my coaches.
Okay.
And I saw a sports psychiatrist who was the one who actually taught me a lot about visualizing. But he was like, you need to learn how to learn again. So he took me golfing. And he loved to golf.
Yeah.
I had, other than mini golfing, I don't think I had ever been golfing in my life. So I'm used to being like the top athletic person in a
Right.
situation, and to be so bad at something was really good for me, because then I started to listen. Like when he said, do this, you need to, and he was interesting as the way I train people is I really have people think about their body and how is your body moving, and moving it correctly, not just so it looks right, so that it is right. And that really, really helped me. And then when I worked with different coaches, I was much more receptive to what they were saying, and I could learn again.
Right. A lot of this plays into what you do with your clients too, doesn't it?
It does. It does. And everyone has different goals. I mean, some people want to have a specific goal, whether it's an athletic goal or a physical goal. And some people, I have some clients that want to get better and what I call functional fitness, your everyday things. I say, when you come home from the grocery store and you have a 50-pound bag of dog food in the back of the car, I want you to pull up, get that bag of dog food, march in your house, and not be like, oh, I got to get that bag of dog food out of the car, and it sits there for 3 days, or
Right.
you wait for someone else to help you,
Right.
So I have some retirees who are really good about saying, like, this is my goal, this is what I want to be able to do. And then when we like for one example, I have one woman who moved into a house whose attic stairs were the kind that fold down.
Yes.
And when she first met me, she's like, I want to be able to get those stairs up and down by myself, because if not, I have to plan my day around somebody helping me. And I saw her this morning and she said, not only do I do that for myself, she's like, I had to get it down for the repairman who came to fix the HVAC. And she was like, oh, I got it.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, that says a lot.
Right.
That says a lot about you as a person, as a trainer, and just the whole scope of what we can do when we put our mind to it, put our body to it, and the motivation. Thank you so much for being here, and congratulations with this and everything else. You are an inspiration, Leah.
Thank you so much.
Okay, and thank you so much for joining us today, too. I'm Diane Dayton with Behind the Lines, reminding you to look behind the lines. You might be surprised what you find.